Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you. Today, in everything you need to know, I have quite a few. Firstly and foremost, I have whether or not you should be selling Gabriel. Secondly, I have a look into Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, both of whom are very important for the upcoming game week and the game weeks ahead. I shall also be looking at Aston Villa assets in some more depth than I did in previous solving your problems. Strategy and chip strategy, now that the doubles and blanks have been confirmed for 33 and 34. I wonder if there are any new opportunities. Assistant manager 31, and of course, captaincy, staple piece of these videos, or at least it was previously. Thank you very much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. If you have been enjoying the videos, make sure to drop a like on this one. And equally, if you have not already subscribed, consider clicking that button as we now go for 8,000 subscribers. But without anything else needing to be said, let's hop into it. So let us start with the discussion surrounding Gabriel and whether or not you should be selling him. And as you can see in the first line, it says in capitals, probably not, but I'm probably even more sure that to sell him here would be a mistake in so many cases. Firstly and foremost, look at your defensive unit for this week, especially if you wildcard in 30, but even if not, your defensive unit largely consists of one of like a Newcastle defender, so Livramento, Trippier, or Burn, or maybe even two of them, and considering they have Leicester away, there's not really much better that you're going to get out there for this week. Guardiola away to Man United. Big game Guardiola, used to a goal. United I don't think it's going to be an easy game, but nonetheless, it's still Hosco Guardiola coming off a win as such, and a victory in the FA Cup. And as such, I just think it's very easy to justify playing him here and not using a transfer for anyone else. Yes, Ryan Aït-Nouri might have a better fixture. Really, it's a might, because Ipswich, for example, have honestly an outside chance of staying up if they can beat Wolves and then get some things going, because Wolves' fixture run's not so easy at some point this season. And that's just about the best of the bunch, right? Munoz, I mean, at home to Palace, not great, I would say, in terms of the fixture, but with the likelihood of attacking returns compared to other defenders and the fact that they're ceiling so high, you really need to use a transfer elsewhere. No. And then to a lesser extent, just because these guys will be in a smaller amount of squads, Ezri Konsa, Villa are on fire at the moment. They're playing really well. They're improved defensively significantly, and we'll come on to that. But also, he's got a goal in his locker, and he's pretty good on the bonus point system. Nearly got one against Brighton. A West Ham defender. I think, honestly, if like Bournemouth are without Clivert, maybe they're a bit fatigued. I think they are a bit fatigued. They have a decent-ish chance at a clean sheet, and then one other decent option, right, which some of you certainly have. I don't actually know why I put that there. I'm sure there was a reason for it originally, but yeah, that's probably like another decent option that you may hold. It's perfectly viable to field your defense this game week with what it's already currently got. And I don't think you need to go and replace Gabriel. And it's not just about your defensive unit this week, but it's also about the information that you're going to gain. In transfer plans yesterday, I spoke about how there could be a shift in chip strategy, because everything is really up in the air at the moment. And Double Game Week 33 is just looking less and less and less appealing as it goes on. Even from a Palace perspective, like, let's just say he kicks in or they lose another game and all of a sudden the league is pretty much null and void. Maybe they'll just prioritize the FA Cup. Maybe they'll use a bit of rotation. Maybe their performance standard will just drop as a result. All of those things which could come into play, whereby I don't think 33 is looking like this unbelievable double, especially considering what we once thought it would be. And as such, it may just be better to keep him. Not only will your chip strategy change, but in terms of who you replace him, I think the preference of who you would like to go for will also change. Maybe resulting in a chip strategy, you would like a different defender entirely, as opposed to someone for double game week 33. You would like someone for double game week 36. Maybe you'll like someone for game week 38 and just having a placeholder there. Maybe someone for 37 where there's another blank, and it'll be the same size as 34 will be most likely. So for all of those reasons, especially the one regarding the chip strategy and how good your defense is this week, I don't think in any case he's a sell. Okay, fine, maybe like 1%, but nothing more than that. I think just give yourself the option, roll. And remember, with 2 free transfers and with 3 free transfers, for every additional free transfer you gain, exponentially you increase your number of routes, number of combinations that you can acquire. For me, especially where there's so much value stored in him, some like cash stored in him, like if you were just to drop down, you'd relinquish so much cash. You can use that elsewhere. Maybe like, for example, you want to upgrade Gordon to Saka in 33 because Foden scores a hat-trick. Use my own team as an example. But this was not a route available to myself prior to this injury. All of those reasons I really would be keeping. And I wouldn't be selling for Saliba because Arsenal defense is undoubtedly going to be worse without Gabriel. Yes, I know that Saliba's attacking output increases and has increased this season when Gabriel has not been on the pitch, and that is a positive. But Everton away is not that easy. Brentford have a goal in them. They've obviously got Real Madrid. They've got other injuries, like Timber's got a bit of a knock. He's okay, but he's got a bit of a knock. Calafiori, Ben White. Just, I wouldn't do it. I would not do it at the moment. I would just wait. From a passionate speech of sorts to keep Gabriel, I will now follow up with a passionate speech to potentially acquire Anthony Gordon, or at least, at a bare minimum, consider him. And it's more to consider him as opposed to definitely buying him. But I would say of all the opportunities currently available to yourself, this is indeed the best one. Firstly, he's got the best fixture I think you can have on the calendar. Aside from maybe Leicester at home, he's got Leicester away. Newcastle had a lot of success in the reverse fixture. And honestly, I would say Newcastle are playing better at the moment. Leicester are playing worse. Yes, they don't have Lewis Hall, and that's a big blow. But nonetheless, I think they get it done and get it done with relative ease, at least. The other thing about him that I don't think is factored in as much is that he plays on Monday. So the recovery time that he has, because obviously he had that little injury, more, as opposed to an injury, is more so a bruise. So just in terms of contact, that could become extremely uncomfortable. But that's got an extra 2 days to recover over the guys who played, for example, Wednesday, Saturday, he plays, well, he hasn't played for a while, and then he has the game on Monday. Eddie Howe tends to just play him even if he's like 80% fit, just because Eddie Howe has a strong preference for him. He seems like the type of guy to always want to be out there as well, more so than I would say the average. And Newcastle squad's on the thinner side. Eddie Howe mentioned that. They obviously really, really, really would like to get Champions League, and that would be a dream season for them, right? Getting Champions League and winning the Carabao Cup. So with that, like, they probably want to manage their squad fairly well, just to ensure that they don't blow their load a little bit early ahead of the run-in. So for all of those reasons, on top of the fact that next week he has a double, and a very good double, I would say a very good double at that, for Man United at home and Crystal Palace at home, in relative terms, compared to the other doubles that teams have this season. For example, like Palace, yeah, they double in 32 and 33, but their doubles aren't great, especially if they're out of form. If they're in form, yeah, okay, I can see them like scoring some goals, but from a defensive standpoint, there shouldn't be many clean sheets. I wouldn't say they're outright a better side than any of those teams. Stylistically, they can hurt them, but still, I wouldn't say like they're the best set of fixtures that they could have. Whereas with Gordon, like these 3 fixtures over the next 2, I think they're much better. Yeah, I just don't think there's anywhere else to look aside from Anthony Gordon for these midfield options, apart from Aston Villa, who we come on to in the next slide. The main thing with him is he worth the extra 2.4 million over Jacob Murphy? And I would say yes. Now, I think their flaws are relatively similar. I think Jacob Murphy, as he's shown last night, can return, as he's shown in the past, can return maybe Hall, but we'll come on to why I think it's unlikely, and go punch for punch with Anthony Gordon in that sense. But with these specific fixtures, for reasons I will come on to, and the fact that Anthony Gordon is just generally, with all due respect, a better attacking player and is on set pieces, at least some of them, I think Gordon's ceiling is just much higher. One thing I've noticed with Murphy is if you actually look at his goals, a lot of them come from striking across himself, leveraging his ball striking with a fairly like straight-bodied, straight-legged action, and scoring in that fashion. However, against back fives, I don't think he's going to like be the one to enter the half space as much, especially because like Tripp is slightly more injury prone. He doesn't have the legs and lungs that he's quite used to. So I don't think you'll see like mass overlaps allowing Jacob Murphy to come to the right half space. I think, for example, like Bruno Guimaraes, if Sandro Tonali's functioning as a 6, Bruno Guimaraes will operate that half space more. Jacob Murphy could provide the width, Trippier could underlap. And you could see like those type of crosses for the Isak goal against Brentford, as opposed to like having the angle developed for him where he can shoot and leverage that particular type of ball striking. Even if he does come into a right half space, against like a back five, it's very difficult to generate those type of opportunities. Whereas Anthony Gordon, even if he is to hold the width, because he's right-footed, when he comes inside, it's much easier for him to get a cross or a shot or like a more penetrative pass, which could lead to an assist off. And like I said, I think obviously a better player from an attacking sense, and also like the transitional threat, which will be there against Palace, not so much against Man United, but still, like for all the reasons I discussed, I think he's a better pick. So like I could see Gordon going like, forget the Leicester game for a second. Let's just talk about the double. I could see Gordon going like whole goal, right? And all of a sudden, and I wouldn't be surprised if Murphy goes blank in that. And all of a sudden, that's like a 20-ish point swing, maybe more. Gordon can do that, whereas I don't think it's going to be the other way around. I'd be so surprised if it's the other way around. Even if Gordon Murphy wins, it won't be by as much. So this is something to consider. If, for example, like you really want to sell Phil Foden, I might give him a week. I might even bench him this week, but I might give him one more week. But regardless, like for example, say you've got some other issues and you are going to sell Gabriel and you want to use some cash in the midfield, Gordon's right there. And in terms of Isak, he often seems to have a physical challenge with him, whether it be his groin or the hamstring or usually something to do with the lower part of the body. But he does usually play through those, even if he is like 75% of the way fit. Eddie Howe's notorious for lying as well. So when he gives a little negative review on someone, I almost just flip it and think, okay, that's quite positive for him. I don't think, like, I don't know. I did look. I just couldn't find it. I don't think we will have a Eddie Howe press conference before the deadline. So that's not great. But one thing with Isak is I really doubt that like he's going to turn up to the King Power on the bench and then come on for like 20 minutes. Especially with like how many minutes Callum Wilson has not played, this will be a good opportunity to kind of get him some, just in case they need him for the run and just generally. So in that case, I think it's pretty safe to say that like if he's there, he'll start and he'll rack up at least like 70 minutes, but probably more. And if he's not, then he'll just move to your vice captain. It's not like you're going to sell him ahead of the double anyway, right? So I think it's fairly easy in that case. Now, for those of you who managed to catch it in the about hour 45 that it was posted before the deadline, in solving your problems, I did discuss 4 particular reasons why I was bullish on Aston Villa. And I am here to re-emphasize that with even more information about why I think you really should be considering Aston Villa assets, maybe even as early as this game week, should you be looking to make changes, should you be on wildcard 31, which, by the way, will be in tomorrow's video. I just thought I'd get a bit more information before I posted the team, or should you be planning ahead? Right, and then those transfers are going to impact Villa players. I think you have to see them in a new light for reasons we shall discuss. Let's start with Morgan Rogers and his new role. And it is a new role, but it's a slightly new role. We used to see Villa at times line up in like a 4-2-2-2, and then they changed to like more of a 4-2-3-1 with a 10. And Emery's spoken about that, how unlike most sides they use a 10, and we'll speak about Asensio in that fashion, where Rogers would be the right-sided player. And many of you may remember that I constantly spoke about how he's far more proficient at delivering, especially attacking returns from the left-hand side due to the angles that he was more proficient at. The wider angles that are generated from the right-hand side don't really suit Rogers. But what I've seen, and I noticed this against Preston the first time around, and I think it occurred less against Brighton, but it did at times. It just so happened that when he made these type of movements, he wasn't really found. The ball went to the other side of the pitch. There was one particular one, I think, with John McGinn in the first half, where Rogers made that type of movement, and the ball ended up going to the left side, when it very easily could have gone to the right. As opposed to just like holding the width, right, and like operating almost outside that half space or on the outer side of it, he's far more willing or allowed to come inside to crush the box a little bit more, which he's quite good at doing, make runs beyond the last line to an extent, or at least up to that last line. And he wasn't really getting that height on the pitch. Like he wasn't going as high on the pitch in previous times, and he wasn't going and crushing the box as much, I would say. He wasn't boasting the zonal occupants that we've seen from other assets who have done really well. But what I do think is now maybe Emery's noticed that and he's allowed to come into that like half space in those central areas a bit more. Jacob Ramsey's held quite a bit of width at times I've seen over the last 2 games. And I think the other thing is having a right back in Cash who can go up and down, who's like far more competent than like let's say Disasi or Concert in providing that width and maybe like overlapping him and crossing, allows him to push inside and have a slightly asymmetric system. But even though he's playing on his less preferred side, I think this shift just allows for his output to realistically rise. Obviously, he got 2 assists. One was a brilliant assist, I thought, from the corner. I thought on his weak foot to hit a pass like that, great. And then the second one was quite weird, right? Like it was so open, so much space following that turn on the halfway line, but still good composure to deliver the ball for Asensio. What he's got above everyone else is those expected minutes. Like no one in that Villa front four comes close to his expected minutes. And naturally, Rashford and Asensio might catch up, but I don't think they'll hit his heights in terms of those minutes. So he's so secure in that sense. Such a good player, in really good form. Villa on a high. And there was one more thing. Minutes, no. Okay, either way, you get the point that like Rogers, I think, could be a really, really good asset. So consider him. The other thing, Emery said this after the Brighton game, that they play with a 10 and most sides aren't willing to do that. And the fact that like he specifically said it and the manner in which he said it suggested to me that they're going to persist with this. And when Asensio's fit and like the game suits like that style of having an Asensio in the 10 as opposed to like a McGinn or even a Tielemans, then I think Asensio is going to play there. And the output levels that he's showing, the confidence, and just the ability. Like, he's actually just very, very, very good at football, right? And I spoke about this with Cunha. Sometimes we don't need to overanalyze this. Like, he's just very, very good at football. And if he's going to be in a preferred position in a good team under a really good coach, he's in form, well, like, he's probably just going to continue scoring goals. So if you are willing to ride the expected waves minute a little bit, for example, like, I don't think he'll play the first leg away at PSG, which means that I think he'll start Southampton. Now, he might start the second leg because I think they'll be down by that point. And it might make more sense at home to kind of go for it a bit more. You'll need to go for it a bit more and have him starting. But, like, I think he could play that. Newcastle City is a bit more up in the air because, like, it depends if he uses Watkins, which we're going to discuss with Rashford. But, like, even off the bench, when he's playing so well, there's a chance there for him to get returned. So that's that. The defense is improved. And I think a lot of that has to do with, one, depth, but also, like, two, the returning Mings and Konsa, and the fact that they're both fit and they can play every game. And I think that improves them so much to have these two quality players there. And yeah, just in general, like, I think having Tielemans, McGinn, Onana, Kamara all available to play in the pivot, the fact that they'll, like, go into games with a fit backline, and I'm just talking about in terms of actual fitness level as opposed to, like, being injured or not. And same with the pivot, that really helped. I think there's been a few small adjustments as well to improve the system. Just like, for example, last year, you saw them concede a lot of goals from transitions, and then you saw less and less of that at the start of the season. I think he's improved on that in that sense. They're in good form. He's such a good coach that, like, he can constantly find solutions. That's why he's such a good cut manager. And obviously the depth that I spoke about. So they're not just going to burn out after the Champions League like they did in previous parts of the season. So for all of those reasons, oh, and also Konsa's due a goal. Like, he's due a headed goal, or a goal in the box as well. So I think there's a 15 pointer / like an 8, 9, 10, 11 pointer waiting to happen there. So in terms of their assets, I think by the time you get to 33, triple up is absolutely non-negotiable. For me, at the moment, like, Rodgers, Konsa, Martinez is cool. It's just more so like the squad structure of the price. Rodgers, Konsa, +1. And I think that +1 will be Rashford. I read something that, like, Watkins not being freezed out, but the reason he's getting slightly less minutes and Rashford's actually playing at 9 is because Watkins is going to help, like, with the PSR side of things. Now, I don't know if that's true, but you can see the quote on screen where Emery's obviously speaking about Rashford in a very positive light. And he's basically saying that, like, Ollie Watkins is competition up top. He's not just going to play on that left-hand side. And yeah, and, like, maybe he's going to play them both. Maybe, like, he'll opt again for, like, a 4-2-2 of sorts. And if not, maybe he'll play on the left. But either way, like, his expected minutes, I think, will be much better than maybe people are currently or previously anticipating. And not only that, he's Marcus Rashford, right? Like, he's still, to me, the best player in that squad. And I don't think it's particularly close, like, in terms of, like, pure talent, right? And they've got some really good talent. Rodgers, Watkins, Asensio, Tielemans, Onana. I would say out of, like, Martinez, pure talent, those guys are probably at the top. But, like, I'd say he's just a tier above. Like, he is so good on his day. And if he's getting back, then I don't really see how you can not play him, like, week in, week out. And Emery said that, like, getting minutes under his belt as opposed to just, like, the goals and, like, starting game on game is, like, really helping his confidence as well. Why would you shoot him down when you built him up, right? But yeah, I think Rodgers, Konsa, Rashford could look to be a really good triple up. And I thought I would give Villa the praise and attention that they deserve. Now, we discussed this in transfer plans yesterday, but I thought it would be good to expand, especially considering we have the confirmation of the double Game Week 33 and blank Game Week 34 fixtures, which are exactly as Ben Crellin predicted, which I think is absolutely magnificent and a huge help. So again, if you don't follow him, his tag is there on the screen under the image at Ben Crellin. Go and drop him a follow and go and say thank you. You can see on screen that 36 and 37 is basically going to be the exact same size, most likely, as 33 and 34. For those of you who are maybe, like, struggling to interpret it just because you haven't seen it before, and I probably would as well had I not seen it, it's pretty simple, right? Nottingham Forest and City play, right? Whoever wins, they're going to blank in 37 probably, and that game will be moving to 36. So if City win, City and Bournemouth will double. If Forest win, then West Ham and Nottingham Forest will double. Okay? That's pretty simple. Similar with Palace and Aston Villa. If Aston Villa win, themselves and Spurs will double because that's the fixture on 37. If not, if Palace win, then Wolves and Palace will double because that's the fixture on 37. So you can only have 2 of those 4 teams doubling. The reason that Forest's and West Ham's potential double game week is in white and labeled as an unlikely double game week is this set of, like, this fixture schedule that Ben's created is very much using, like, the odds that are out for the FA Cup semi-final. So, for example, like Villa and Palace is fairly close, so they're both possible. And Ben's classified the City Bournemouth one as likely, and the Nottingham Forest as unlikely because of just expect Manchester City to win, or at least whatever odds he's taken. And hence, that will have the same implications in 37 that they do in 34. Teams that double or blank in 37. As you can see, it's the same type of opportunity we have in 33 and 34. It just so happens that Newcastle and Palace double before that, right? Which means that our strategy slightly shifts and we should probably place more emphasis earlier than later, as we have done. But you can see that this is not going to be like overly easy. For example, teams will rock up. Like, first of all, you don't know the result. Let's just say two most probable ones, City and Villa go to the final. There will be teams and people will arrive with like double, triple Bournemouth, triple City, triple Villa, naturally so because they'll already have them for 33. And then some Tottenham assets to accompany. And they'll have really strong teams. And if you're not like super well set because you've used a bunch of transfers for like a suboptimal bench boost in 33, all of a sudden you could be like 3, 4, 5 doublers behind. Maybe even some hits will need to be taken to catch up in 36. And then you've got 37 to deal with. And if you look at 37 and 38 and like 36, 37, 38, they don't exactly like, they're not the same in terms of like fixture quality. The best example I can give is Arsenal. Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, but Southampton in 38. You'd love them for 38, but how much do you really want them in 36? Not so much, but then you'd like them in 37 because they have a fixture, right? City you love in 36, but not so much for 37 and 38, and so on, and so on, and so on, right? So for those reasons, I think having transfers towards the back end is really useful. Another reason why I wouldn't sell Gabriel. And there are opportunities here, whether it be a triple captain on Marmouche, whether it be a bench boost 36, whether it be, you know, a variety of other things. For example, like Brentford have Ipswich away. Maybe you just go Wissa and Mbeumo. They've got Fulham at home 37. At least they have a fixture. And they've got Wolves away in 38. There's loads of goals there, right? There are loads of goals. So this is something you could do and start to like gear yourself towards that. And the thing about them is they have Brighton at home in 33. So maybe all of a sudden you buy like, I don't know, a Wissa just as an example. And your bench boost in 33 consists of that. And you're just setting yourself up for, sorry, you're just buying them like, you're rolling a little bit earlier to buy them down the line and strengthen a bench boost there, as an example. I think these things should just be taken into consideration. But I essentially just wanted to show you that those fixtures early on are confirmed and what is likely to come. Assistant Manager 31, which I wouldn't be surprised if there are thousands of you who watch this on that. Maybe like 1,000 to 1,999. Thousands, just because I imagine AM24, 25 was very popular. But nonetheless, as it says in the bottom paragraph, I'm very much a table bonus manager. I just think it's optimal. And as such, I'm going to analyze more so those options and we can discuss like the other strategies. Potter for me is my current preference. I've spoken about this in the past. The results show a very strong correlation, and where it doesn't always equal causation, I think in this case it does. When Todibo plays, West Ham are a better side. For me, that is indisputable. He was ill against Wolves, and also because of Ramadan with everything put together, he couldn't even come off the bench. However, following Potter's comments, because I went and read what he said about him in his press conference, he will likely start, right? Like he's trained much better, he trains today, and that's a huge positive, right? So, given that, I think all of a sudden, West Ham's chances improves. Not to mention that Kudus has also trained, I don't think to like quite the same extent in terms of how well it went. It didn't go badly, just not as well as Todibo's, from what I read. But him being there, right, and Bowen having that supporting cast in the former Kudus, who obviously came huge for me last time away at Aston when I went for Potter, and he was unbelievable that day, probably the best player on the pitch. No, he was the best player on the pitch. He should have won man of the match. Again, big positive. Cliver's likely to miss out following Iraiola's comments. Bournemouth, I think, are definitely a bit fatigued. Obviously, they lost a few games in the league beforehand, I think, to City. Then they lost to City. They lost to Ipswich at home. They've had a lot of games. A lot of their players have travelled. Good time, for West Ham to pounce on them when they're weak, and it's at home. I quite like the West Ham shout. I think the other three table bonus managers to consider at the moment are Ruben Amorim, Marcus Silva, and David Moyes. They're all in contention. Arsenal, I think Saka will play like 60 to 70 minutes, but with how good Everton have been, and they were pretty good against Liverpool as well, right? All things considering, I think they've got goals in them, or at least a goal in them, and they could win that game. I think Arsenal have had a lot of problems breaking down blocks. For example, like, yeah, Marino scored, and people on the timeline were like, oh, wow, Marino. But, like, realistically, he did very little all game. He was pretty ineffective. He didn't carry much threat, and it was a deflected shot, right? Like, Leno easily would have saved that. I don't think you can just say that like, oh, they're okay, because I don't think they are. I think they have a huge reliance on Saka. So if they can either like double, triple team him and kind of lock him down and give him a quiet game, and he goes off after like 60, 65, wouldn't be surprised if they hurt Arsenal late, or if they get a lead and they really hold on to it. So some merit there. I still prefer Potter. Amorim, I guess it's really how you interpret Man United's prospects. I personally think City get the job done. But like tactically, it's a game where United could come out on top. I wouldn't be too surprised. Marcus was interesting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he drew this game. Like, I don't think it's easy. As we'll come on to in the captaincy section, I think if Fulham play well, it's probably one of the hardest games Salah could have. Going away to Fulham against that type of aggressive mid block and against Robinson. Now, I don't think that matchup with Robinson is like the most difficult, most challenging thing in the world, but I do think it's quite challenging. So those are all guys to consider for table bonus. But for me, currently, preference to Potter. Frank I shall discuss tomorrow, because I would like to see how Chelsea perform tonight. Very soon, actually, given the 7:44. Given like Madueke will be back, I think on the bench. Jackson will be back. Palmer will be back. I know Lavia's not back, but still, like big plus for Chelsea. So I'll analyze him tomorrow. And yeah, if you want to go table bonus 31, you could go Howe. Like, they probably have the best fixture, and he has a double on 32. So if you're not too worried about table bonus, you can kind of just go Howe and then capture like Man United home, Palace at home. Maybe he wins both games, gets one clean sheet, scores a couple goals in each. You end up on 18. Very solid. Or you could just go Glasner, right, for what will be like table bonus, probably like in 31 in both games, and then table bonus in 32, I think, for at least, well, definitely one, but almost definitely not the other. The thing about Glasner is, and it's why I wouldn't go for him straight away, even if you are really strong on the fact that you're going to go 31, 32, 32, 33 Glasner, is, as I discussed earlier, I think you want to see a bit of a bounce back from Palace, ensure that they haven't, not quote unquote, given up on the league, that same level of intensity is there. You want to ensure that the schedule hasn't caught up to them, because obviously they had the FA Cup and then a game midweek and then another one. For all of those reasons, I would just wait and be open to the fact that, like, in 32, 33, you might not go Glasner, because away at Newcastle, I'm not sure they win, and same with away at City, right? They've got the weapons to do so, and they've got the quality to do so, but I think just let it play out as opposed to going Glasner straight away. Finally, let us discuss captaincy, and I don't think it shall be too challenging. I will revisit this again tomorrow, potentially, just like I will for Wildcard 31. That will be there in solving your problems and team selection. The candidates for me are Salah, Palmer, Isak, Marmoush, and Gordon in brackets, just like Rashford was last game week. And that actually would have done pretty well. Would have netted you 8 points. Second best, I would say, out of the popular choices, apart from Marmoush. For me, Isak, standout option if he's fit. Even though like Leicester City Leicester City lined up with a back five against Manchester City, it was fairly ineffective. And the thing that makes me think they might revert to a back four is not just the fact they're at home, but the lack of attacking threat they carried, the lack of wide threat that they carried, the lack of counter-attacking threat, the lack of transitional threat was probably less than I've seen in any other game this season. And I don't think you can like operate like that, because you're just not going to win the game. Like, there's no chance you're going to win the game. Even getting a draw is so difficult like that, right? You can't just defend your box for 90 minutes when you don't have like the best set of players to do that anyway. So I think they might go to a back four, and if so, Isak. Well, if he's fit, he's got a really good chance of hauling. And if he's not, it'll just move to your vice captain. Anyway, I've seen a few polls as well, and like Salah's still like 40%, and it just surprises me so much. Like, I think Isak's fixture's so much better. He's in better form as well, honestly, as well. Like, for example, Salah's blanked effectively twice in the Champions League, in the Carabao Cup final, against Everton. In all those 4 games, he didn't look particularly dangerous, whereas Isak has just pretty much slapped everyone in his face, right? So that's another thing to consider. Naturally, it's Salah, right? So like, I still have that respect for him. I'm still considering it myself. But it is Fulham away. It's no easy task. And as I spoke about in the last slide, there are better matchups for him. Palmer's form dependent. It's also just the fact that he's called Palmer. Brentford can give you a game where you can create a lot of opportunities and certainly score goals. We'll see what happens with Chelsea tonight. Marmoush, as I said really early on, he has the goal scoring gene. There's so many things about his game which I really like. And just for me, I think he can score against pretty much anyone at any time. Even against Leicester, I didn't think he started the game particularly well, but like, he grew into it really well, and that's something I haven't seen from every player, right? Like, for example, I don't actually think like number 9 is his best position. I think what he was doing last time, functioning as a second striker with someone who could hold for him, someone who could pin for him, someone he could run off. And Linkwood to an extent is actually his best position. But I thought he adjusted really well. And naturally, with all due respect, it's probably the easiest game he'll have this season, especially in what's left. But still, I thought he's really good. Now, United's, especially in these big games, can be difficult. But I honestly just think he's so good that he can hack it and find a solution. Lastly, Gordon, I probably wouldn't, because I think it's a bit of a risk given he's coming back from injury, especially if Isak's there, right? You don't want to. I don't think you'd want to go Gordon over Isak for this fixture, at least, without seeing how it pans out. But maybe like put the vice captaincy on him, because if Isak's not there, then like maybe he becomes more of a focal point or more important to the team's attacking output. Albeit, I still think I would move the vice captaincy armband to like a Salah or a Palmer or a Marmoush. That's captaincy wrapped up for today, at least. And that is all she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to quickly edit this and then go and watch the Chelsea Spurs game. It shall be out after that, and then solving your problems will be out around maybe like 7-ish p.m. tomorrow to give you 16 hours or so to watch it. Have a wonderful evening. I shall see you today or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching it. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like and equally subscribe as we push for 8,000 subscribers. I shall see you very soon. Goodbye.